Available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Dark Incubus. The goddess next door gets enthralled in a romantic entanglement with an evil incubus in this all-new Isis series adventure. Get your copy of Isis, Dark Incubus in paperback and e-readers today. Previous video, I talked about how Marvel Comics is moving its publishing division from New York to Burbank, California. And with this move, Marvel Comics has decided to replace its editor-in-chief, C.B. Cebulski, with Stephen Wacker. And when it comes down to Stephen Wacker, he's got a lot of work cut out for him. Now, Marvel Comics, under the misleadership of C.B. Cebulski, has gone into a major decline, with them losing market share to DC Comics, and they've also had lots of books just go through a vicious cycle of just being relaunched and canceled over and over again. And when it comes to Stephen Wacker, he's got a lot of work to do to rebuild Marvel's publishing division. And as a publisher myself, there are several things that I believe that Stephen Wacker definitely needs to do if he hopes to get Marvel back on track. Now, the first thing I believe that Stephen Wacker definitely needs to do is basically clean house as related to Marvel, because when it comes down to the staff that they currently have for editors, these people have no sense of focus and no sense of direction and have learned a whole dysfunctional approach to publishing comics, and it's just time to go out here and replace those people with people who are better qualified and can set a direction under his leadership. And in order to set that direction under his leadership, he definitely is going to have to let Tom Brevoort go. Now, Tom Brevoort has been at Marvel for over 30 years, and under the 30 years he's been there, basically Marvel has been in a state of decline, and him being in editorial is not benefiting the company at all, and it's just time to let this guy go because he's just been there too long, and he's basically dead weight at this point that basically is going to just go out here and demoralize any new staff that he looks to hire at Marvel. That's what the first thing that Stephen Wacker needs to do, because when it comes down to Marvel's editorial has just been doing a terrible job on these books, and these books are so bad these days with Marvel that the books basically don't feel like a shared universe anymore. No, they basically feel like they're silos, and each book is basically in its own world. I mean, I've recently read books where the characters don't feel as consistent with storylines from book to book. No, it feels like every book is in its own world, and that's not good for a whole series of books that are supposed to be part of the Marvel Universe. Now, the next thing that Stephen Wacker needs to do is basically go and basically, after removing all the editorial, basically now then look to go out here and find himself some better qualified writers and artists, because the people he's got right now are just hot garbage. I mean, when I look at a Marvel comic these days, there's no consistent house art style. Everything is just basically looking rushed and sloppy, and when it comes down to everything, it just feels amateurish compared to what I see in many indie books. When I look at many indie books, the quality is just that much better. And when it comes to what was considered to be the #1 comic book publisher in the world, this substandard work that Marvel has been producing, we need to raise the bar on that. Marvel needs to raise the bar on that, and Stephen needs to demand better of his writers and his artists. And as he demands better from his artists and writers and his editorial, he also needs to demand that Disney go out here and look to pay higher page rates for more qualified writers. That's what he needs to do. I mean, paying people $50 a page is reprehensible. In the times of this whole, inflation crisis going on out here, paying a writer $50 or paying an artist at the top $100, that's reprehensible in and of itself. And page rates for Marvel need to go up as related to things, because right now, when it comes down to Marvel, if you're moving to Burbank, again, you're going to have a smaller staff, and again, a smaller staff as related to things because I can run a publishing house out of my bedroom. So I understand about cost and everything costing money. But I understand that, okay, you've cut the cost at Marvel. So now put that money back into the books by going out here and hiring people who are a bit better as related to art and better as related to storytelling. And those people are out here, and if you pay them the higher page rates, they can go out here and give you better books, and those better books can be a bit more competitive in the marketplace. And raising the page rates will not only allow many people who work on comics at Marvel to be able to make their living as related to working on comics in this cost of living crisis, it'll also allow Marvel to be seen as a prestige job in comics, which is something that Marvel would really want, being the now number 2 company as related to comics, because right now, when it comes down to page rates on comics, Marvel's page rates are basically lower than what a guy or a girl can get in the indies working on one of these crowdfunded comics, and that shouldn't be the thing for working for a major corporation, that your rates are just so low that they're not even competitive with many of the indie companies out here who are making comics for crowdfunding. Basically, when it comes down to those page rates, Marvel has to get its page rates up so that it's seen as a prestige job by many of those in comics, and that's one of the things that they have to do if they want to get people to get serious about wanting to work in comics. Now, the other thing that Marvel has to do is that they have to go out here and look to try to appeal to younger customers, because the customer base they have right now has basically reached a point where it cannot grow any further, and that's one of the things that's basically stagnated the comic book industry for the last 30 years. Now, the median age of a comic book reader these days in 2026 is about 50 to 60 years old, and when you have age group in that demographic that's that old, there's no place for them to grow any further, because that group basically has 1 foot in the grave and 1 foot on a banana peel. And that group, basically, you can't sell them any more products anymore. And that's something Nabisco realized with products like its Royal Lunch milk crackers and Crown Pilot crackers. Basically, all the people who went out here and bought Royal Lunch milk crackers and Crown Pilot crackers had basically died at this point, and they were selling a product to an audience that did not exist. So they had to discontinue those products because there were no customers to buy those products anymore. And Marvel has to realize that now that you've got a customer base that's in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, this is not a good thing for a company that features characters that are targeted towards youth, because if your characters are not really selling with the youth, that means that there's no place for them to grow and no place for you to grow your customer base. Now, again, in 1987, when I was 13 years old, the median age of a comic reader was 13 years old, and this is the audience that's going out here and buying manga right now, the 8 to 13-year-old audience, and it's time for Marvel to start looking seriously at looking to go head-to-head with manga and looking to try to get some connection with that audience of 8 to 13-year-olds, because the audience of 8 to 13-year-olds is where you really want to be. You really want to be with the younger audience, because the younger audience, basically, they are the ones who you have the money, and they can also go out here and be able to grow with the characters the same way that many Gen Xers and millennials and baby boomers did. But it's better off if Marvel starts focusing on trying to appeal to a younger customer base right now, because this older customer base is basically on the road to dying. And when it comes down to the whole business of pop culture, this is a major issue, and Marvel has to get in front of this right now. It has to get in front of trying to appeal to younger customers, because it's the younger customers who you want buying comics, and the younger customers are the ones who basically are the ones who make comics popular. And again, if the younger kids aren't interested in the comics, then you're basically going to lose out at all as related to being an editor-in-chief, because C.B. Cebulski didn't focus on the youth. But if I were in charge, and again, if I was in charge, I'm focusing on the youth. I'm focusing on the teens and tweens and even some of the 20-somethings, and focusing on building that audience, because to sit there and continue trying to make books for these Gen Xers and many of these baby boomers who are basically 50 and 60 years old, that's just a waste of time. And a waste of time because you want to make your books, while you want to make your books all ages, you have to focus on the base of customers who basically can grow with the product, and not the base that's basically just have grown out of the product and should have moved on a long time ago, because that base has no place to go except the grave, and you can't make money off dead people. Now, in addition to raising the page rates as related to these books, Stephen Wacker also has to, as he goes out here, has to start working on looking to, again, try to get these characters back on track, because with many Marvel books under the misleadership, I believe, starting with Joe Quesada and then Axel Alonso and then C.B. Cebulski, we've seen the quality of Marvel books just go on a steady decline from 2001 on, and it's time to get those books back on track, and that starts with their flagship character of Spider-Man. Now, Spider-Man is Marvel's flagship character, and his book has been hot garbage, I'd say, ever since the Brand New Day, or One More Day that it's called, the storyline where Peter Parker and Mary Jane end their marriage and make a deal with Mephisto. That story has to be undone, and we need to get this Spider-Man character back on track and get him back in New York City, going out here spinning webs and fighting crime. That's where we need to get Spider-Man, because the series at this point is a complete mess of jumbled storylines about symbiotes, about all sorts of derivative characters. I mean, we've got nothing real. It doesn't feel like a Spider-Man comic, doesn't have the heart or soul of a Spider-Man comic. And with your flagship characters not really going well, then your whole catalog is just going to be a complete mess. Now, with rebuilding Spider-Man, he also has to get the X-Men back on track. Now, the X-Men were Marvel's top-selling comic for over 20 years, but things just basically have fallen apart over the last 5 to 10 years with the whole Krakoa mess from Hickman, that basically just the storyline fell completely apart, and From the Ashes from Gail Simone has just been a completely jumbled and directionless mess. So in addition to rebuilding Spider-Man, he's got to get the X-Men back on track, because Spider-Man and the X-Men, and I would even say the Incredible Hulk, which his book is just basically another book that's gone, because you got this Infernal Hulk, which I consider to be hot garbage. Again, none of these characters that are considered to be the top characters at Marvel are having storylines that are exciting or even true to their mission. I mean, these characters are so far off the mark that they're not even resembling what they look like, and you've definitely got to get these flagship characters back on track if you hope to get Marvel competitive again. Now, when it comes down to Marvel, you also have problems with other characters like Iron Man. Again, Iron Man was the guy who basically led the MCU, but his book has been, I would say a complete mess ever since The Crossing back in the 90s. Now, when it came down to it, Kurt Busiek did get Iron Man back on track in 1998, but by 2001, the book has been just a garbage all around, and the book never really recovered as related to things. And again, it's sad that the MCU Iron Man was a more compelling character than what we saw in Tony Stark, because Tony Stark did start to show potential during the days of the Len Kamenetsky, Kevin Hopgood era. Basically, the character was starting to turn around until the editorial mandated crossing derailed that character, and everything at Marvel basically is a mess. And I again believe that it's time for Stephen Wacker to come out here and again start the clean house. Because when I look at ads like when they had this new Avengers run that they're planning after this whole situation as related to this Red Hulk taking over Latveria, whatever that storyline is called, it's a garbage storyline with a Mary Sue character in this David Colton. It's all garbage all around. Nope, when it comes down to everything, I look at that Avengers relaunch, that needs to be scrapped altogether, and you need to get all these books back to where they were as related to things, because when it comes to Marvel, people aren't making theirs Marvel because they don't even know what Marvel looks like, and they don't know what Marvel looks like. They can't identify anything to even care about. And on top of it, they really do need to stop with the Sam Wilson Captain America. I mean, the guy already had a box office failure. It's just time to admit Sam Wilson is the Falcon and just move on. And when it comes to Sam Wilson, just admit that it's over. Oh, you tried to tell us something that nobody believes. Again, Captain America is Steve Rogers. He's the one who basically is the one who created the values and the mission of the character. And we need to get back to Steve being Cap and Sam being the Falcon. Maybe give Sam a solo book if you want to do something, or a limited series to see where Sam can go. But it's time to just start getting these characters back where they were and get us off these misguided directions as related to these books. Because when it comes down to Marvel, again, these characters resemble nothing like the characters they were even, I would say, 20 years ago. That's how lost these characters are. And Stephen Wacker has his work cut out for him as editor-in-chief, and he's gonna basically have to be like one of these auto rebuilders that I see on YouTube. When these guys go out here, these auto rebuilders, they get a wreck, and they've got to go out here and rebuild that wreck. They've got to tear the whole thing down and basically identify the damaged parts to replace. I mean, it's a lot of work to do, and he's going to have to go out here and do a lot of work to get Marvel back on track, because you've got a lot of damaged characters out here like Iron Man and Spider-Man and the X-Men, and then you've got creatively totaled characters like Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel, and Riri Williams, Ironheart, who you're going to have to admit are just creatively totaled and completely damaged and damaged beyond repair. There's no way to fix these characters, and it's just foolish to keep trying to push Kamala Khan and Riri Williams, Ironheart. Nope, when these characters, you got to go out here and send them to whereabouts unknown, and basically, which is considered to me to be like the junkyard for characters. I mean, once you start tearing Marvel down, you're going to have to admit some of this stuff going to have to go in the pile, and basically look to salvage what you can find and rebuild what you're going to have to rebuild, and basically take those bad parts out. Again, this is going to be some heavy labor. I know this as a writer and a publisher, how much work is going to have to be involved as related to rebuilding Marvel. Again, you got a lot of junk out here, and you got to admit that some of this stuff is junk. Some of this stuff you're going to have to, again, purge from Marvel in order to get it back on track. I mean, all these all new, all different Marvel characters, you're going to have to get them out of here in some way. Again, send them the whereabouts unknown and basically call it a day and get these books back to where they need to be. I mean, and you're going to have to go out here and look to the indies for some new talent. And I know that there are some great writers and artists out here, and I've seen them on the indies. I mean, there's some really great talent out here, and he needs to go out here and reach out to that talent to go out here and get these books on point. And another thing he needs to do is go out here and look to make better offers, because the work for hire deal ain't the deal anymore. No, you got to go out here. If you want people to come into Marvel, you're going to have to offer some sort of profit sharing or some sort of deal where they're getting royalties in perpetuity. I mean, you're going to have to offer something, again, as related to publishing, because, again, when it comes down to these characters being turned into IPs, that's one of the reasons why many creators are basically not interested in working for Marvel. They're not interested in working for Marvel because they're going to see it as a work-for-hire deal where they're getting paid pennies on the dollar. Meanwhile, these same creators are getting sometimes $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 on a Kickstarter, and basically they can go out here and make that much money on a Kickstarter for their own IP. So you got to go out here and sweeten the deal for them to work for you. And basically, as you're getting them to work for you, you're also going to have to shrink this catalog, because when it comes to Marvel, there's just too many books being produced at this point. I know this as a publisher. I mean, I only make 3 to 5 books a year, and this year I only made 3 books because I don't want to have too many books coming out every year. And I also know that people are going to go for the backlist, so I don't want to have too many books coming out. And when it comes down to Marvel, they've got too many books right now, and on top of them having too many books, they also have books that constantly get canceled, and that really frustrates readers. It frustrates readers because just as you're getting into a series, the series winds up getting canceled and rebooted so that they can get sales on #1 issues. That's not how you get readers. Again, that's how you get these gambling addicted individuals, especially with things like blind bags. You'll get these gambling addicted individuals who want to go out here and gamble on variant covers to sell on eBay. But Marvel needs readers if it wants to go out here and be able to build an audience for things like its TV shows and its Marvel Studios movies. You've got to build the readership in order to get people interested in the movies and have material to adapt. You've got to go out here and go and really work on again getting that done. And the only way to do that is like what the late Jim Shooter used to do. He only had a small catalog, again, maybe 12, 16 titles, something people can possibly buy with a $100 bill if they want in a month. And you want to keep it small, you want to keep it compact, and you don't want to keep rebooting books. That was one of the things that made the Cebulski era the worst of it I've ever seen. Again, just as people... Again, you can't really, as a creator, you can't really tell a story in basically 6 to 10 issues. Nope, you can't really even get into your first story arc because you got to go out here and undo all the junk that the other writers left as related to the damage they did to this character. And that's something that is, again, a major problem for creators. You got to tear down everything and basically try to go out here and find a way to rebuild this character before you can even start your own run. I mean, that's one of the things that gives me pause. And I, again, a long time ago in a ghetto far, far away, wanted to be a comic book writer. But when I look at the damage to the structure, again, it's just like being an auto rebuilder. Once you tear it down and you see the frame damage, you see the structural damage to the body, you basically say, hey man, this is a parts car at best. I mean, because it's just so damaged. And even then, there's not many parts we can even get off this thing. I mean, that's the way I look at comics, Marvel Comics today. Same way I look at DC Comics. The damage is just that extensive. And when it comes down to Stephen Wacker, he's got his work cut out for him. And I feel for him because he's got a lot of work to do if he wants to get Marvel back on track and get it on point where they can go out here and retake market share and be competitive again. He's got his work cut out for him. But the whole thing is that this is the job that he has, and I'm hoping he knows what he's getting into as related to this whole business of comic publishing. Now, my first full comic, John Haynes at Death's Door, is available on Lulu.com in paperback, and it's also available on Amazon's Kindle and also available on Google Play. And my second comic, Esteem No Good Deed, which I did with Bill Walker, was available on Amazon for just 99 cents, and it's also available in the Esteem series book, Esteem Blast from the Past. And you can pick up the books of the SJS Direct Universe, the prose stories of the SJS Direct Universe, like the ISIS series, the Esteem series, the John Haynes series, and books like those in the Spinsterella series, and books like The Fate is an Eternal Night. You can find all those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them at other online booksellers like Draft Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. That's all. And if you want to see me make more videos talking about the comic book industry, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available on Lulu. John Haynes at Death's Door. The man who rules the world takes on the Greek god of death in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes comic book. Get your copy of the first John Haynes comic at lulu.com today. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, an offer he can't refuse. The man who rules the world gets a job offer he can't refuse in this action-packed all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes, an offer he can't refuse at amazon.com and other online booksellers. Now available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS, Runway of Doom. The goddess next door struts her stuff on the catwalk to take on a runway of rogues in this action-packed all-new ISIS series adventure. Get your copy of ISIS Runway of Doom at amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, Esteem a New Woman. The devilish diva starts on the road to becoming a new creature in Christ in this all-new Esteem series adventure. Get your copy of Esteem a New Woman at amazon.com in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.